The night the halls shook. I never planned to be part of the news that week, but that's the thing about Adams Hall. You don't get to pick which stories you end up in. Sometimes you're just there when everything goes sideways. It started like any other Friday. The last week of November, cold enough that your breath fogged the glass when you leaned against the window, but not so cold that people stopped pretending winter hadn't come yet. Everyone was eager for a distraction. Finals were breathing down our necks, and the only thing more powerful than exam stress was the promise of Logan Kane's so-called end-of-the-world party. Logan was the sort of guy who could turn a Tuesday night into legend. He had a roster of contacts longer than some people's resumes. Frat guys, DJs, townies, the kind of people who seemed to hover around the edges of legality. Still, none of us really thought about that when he taped a poster to every floor's main bulletin board. Adams Hall. Friday night. No limits. A QR code led to an encrypted group chat where you could RSVP, although Logan liked to say that the only real requirement was a willingness to do something stupid. By 9 p.m., you could hear the bass echoing down the halls, and it felt like the whole dorm was pulsing in time. I wasn't planning to go. I'd told my roommate, Noah, that I needed to work on my paper for modern American history. He just laughed. "Sure, Eli," he said, throwing a hoodie over his shoulders. "Text me when you give up. I'll save you a cup." He left me in our darkened room, the window rattling as the music ramped up. For a while, I actually did try to write. I got a paragraph done, maybe two, but every so often, someone would scream, excited, drunk, feral, and it would rattle my concentration. My phone kept lighting up with Snapchats, Logan pouring shots, girls dancing on tables, a group of guys in ski masks playing beer pong. One story simply said, "Shit's about to get real." That should have been my cue to stay away. But curiosity is a disease, and I caught it like everyone else. By 10, I'd slipped out of my room, my student ID in one pocket and a half-baked excuse in my head if anyone asked where I was going. Logan's suite was on the second floor, already infamous for the number of noise complaints it racked up. The door was wide open, a yellow strobe light pulsing inside. Bodies jammed every inch of space, people dancing, drinking, or just trying to inch through the crowd. The walls were taped with plastic sheeting, like he thought it was a nightclub, and a fog machine belched cinnamon-scented smoke into the air. I was still trying to edge around a couple, making out near the door when I felt a hand clap my shoulder. "Eli, you made it!" Logan's grin was the same practiced charisma I'd seen in every photo of him. He wore a black bomber jacket, and there was a gleam in his eye I didn't trust. Yeah, just wanted to see what was going on." He leaned in so I could hear him over the music. "Tonight's special, man. Wait around, you're gonna see something." I didn't ask what he meant. I just nodded, pretending like I belonged. I tried to look casual as I drifted toward the kitchen, where a folding table sagged under the weight of a dozen liquor bottles. Someone shoved a red cup into my hand, and I took a polite sip, immediately regretting it. It tasted like cough syrup mixed with gasoline. "Hey," a voice barked from the living room. "Logan, he's here." For a second, everything slowed. Heads turned. Logan straightened up, his grin widening. He clapped twice and yelled for the music to drop. The speakers went silent. The sudden hush was jarring. People shifted uncomfortably, a few laughing like it was part of the show. I was wedged by the counter, too curious to leave, too uneasy to relax. That's when a guy stepped in through the doorway. He didn't look like he belonged in a college dorm, maybe 30, maybe 40. Worn black parka, jeans too clean for someone wandering around in this part of town. He carried a military-style duffel bag slung over his shoulder, the kind you could stuff a body in if you felt like it. He glanced around the room, his expression flat, and then settled on Logan. "Bedroom," he said simply. Logan nodded. He turned back to the crowd, beaming like a game show host. "Everybody, this is Jay. Be cool. No photos, no videos. Got it?" A murmur of assent rippled through the crowd. I felt my stomach sink. I didn't know much, but I knew enough to recognize that Jay wasn't delivering pizzas. The music resumed, but quieter. Jay and Logan disappeared down the short hallway toward the bedroom. A few people followed. Others pretended to dance, but everyone was watching. I thought about leaving. I really did. But instead, I drifted closer to the hall, drawn by the morbid curiosity that makes you rubberneck at a wreck on the highway. Inside the bedroom, the lights were off, except for a single lamp, Jay set his duffel on the bed and unzipped it. A few seconds later, Logan emerged, carrying a clear plastic bag the size of a cereal box, full of powder so white it looked almost blue under the lamplight. I swallowed. Someone behind me whispered, "That's a lot more than usual." Someone else muttered, "He's supplying half the frats." Jay stayed in the doorway, arms folded. His eyes swept the hall, taking in the gawkers like me. He didn't look angry, just calm, like this was routine. Logan held up the bag. "Cash up front," he called as though he were auctioning off a prize. I edged back, adrenaline humming in my ears. This wasn't a party anymore. This was a transaction, one that could end very badly. I turned, intending to slip away, when I noticed a girl near the door texting rapidly. Her thumbs moving so fast they blurred. She didn't look up. She just hit send and shoved her phone in her coat. My stomach flipped. A terrible certainty bloomed in my chest. She'd just tipped someone off. I fought my way back to the main room, trying to find Noah or anyone I knew. The music had picked back up, but the energy felt different, more strained. People were still drinking and dancing, but everyone's eyes flicked to the hall every few seconds, waiting for the next act. I just reached the threshold when the first siren wailed. It started distant, like maybe it was passing on the avenue outside. Then it grew louder, closer. The bass rattled the floor and the siren split the air over it. People looked up, uncertain. Then another siren joined it. Then another. Someone killed the music. For a moment, it was deathly silent. I felt the skin on my neck prickle. Then the fire alarm shrieked to life. Chaos erupted. I'd always wondered how people would react in a real emergency. Turns out, panic looks a lot like a stampede. Someone screamed, and half the room bolted for the door at once. Cups crashed to the floor. The lights flickered. Someone shoved me against the counter hard enough that my teeth clicked together. I stumbled back, pressing my hands to my ears as the alarm howled. Over it, I heard Logan shouting. Something about hiding the bag, about everyone staying calm. No one listened. I pushed toward the front door, half dragged by the current of bodies. When I finally made it into the hall, it was worse. People poured out of every suite, some wrapped in blankets, some still clutching bottles, and all of them trying to figure out if this was a drill. That was when the first uniformed officers came up the stairs. They moved in tight formation, hands on their belts, shouting for everyone to stop. Behind them, more cops climbed the stairwell, helmets and riot vests and flashlights that blinded you if they swept past your face. "Everyone on the wall, now!" I pressed my back to the cinder block. A girl next to me burst into tears. Down the hall, I heard someone yell that they had rights. The officers ignored them. Two peeled off into Logan's suite, barking commands. The rest started working their way down the corridor, checking IDs, ordering people to sit on the floor. For the next hour, it was like the whole building had been frozen in time. No one spoke above a whisper. Every so often, a door banged open as they pulled someone else out. The alarms finally went silent, but it didn't make things feel calmer. If anything, the quiet made every sound echo. The snap of a glove, the rustle of a jacket, the low crackle of radios. Someone said they'd found enough of coke to charge Logan with intent to distribute. Someone else claimed the guy with the duffel bag had slipped out before the first squad cars arrived. No one knew what to believe. They lined us up one by one and took statements. When it was my turn, an officer asked for my name, ID, and if I'd bought or used anything illegal. I told the truth, that I'd only been there 20 minutes, that I hadn't bought anything, that I'd been about to leave when the alarms went off. The officer wrote it all down without looking up. By 2 a.m, they let most of us go. Logan wasn't among us. Neither were half a dozen others. Rumor said they were being loaded into vans for processing. The hall was wrecked. Broken cups, abandoned coats, puddles of spilled liquor. My shoes stuck to the floor as I walked back to my room, too tired to feel anything but numb relief. Noah was waiting inside, wide-eyed. "Holy shit," he whispered. "You were there?" I nodded. I didn't have the words to describe it. The fear, the confusion, the feeling that the night had cracked reality open and shown us something ugly underneath. We stayed up until dawn, swapping fragments of what we'd seen. By breakfast, the whole campus knew. Some people treated it like gossip. Others were furious. Furious at Logan, at the administration, at the girl who'd called the cops. But most of us were just tired. They called it the Adams Hall raid in the papers. For weeks, there were rumors of expulsions, suspensions, and sealed records. The administration tried to spin it as proof they were taking safety seriously. Nobody really believed them. I kept replaying the moment when the sirens started. The instant when a party turned into a crime scene. The instant I realized that we were all just pretending we were invincible. I never saw Logan again. They said he left town before the semester ended. Jay, if that was even his real name, vanished like a ghost. The rest of us were left to pick up the pieces. That's the thing about nights like that. You go in thinking it's just another story you'll tell. You come out knowing it's a story that will haunt you. And if I learned anything, it was this. Sometimes the end of the world isn't fireworks or earthquakes. Sometimes it's just a hallway full of flashing lights, the cold touch of a gloved hand on your shoulder, and the knowledge that nothing will ever be quite the same.